I knew something in my house had shifted long before I saw the proof. Caleb didn't even flinch when he told a stranger I was too slow to notice anything anymore. He said it right there in my own garage, like I wasn't standing 3 feet away from him. That was the moment I realized disrespect can grow quietly until it wants the whole room. If you've ever faced something like that, tell me your story below. My flight from Denver landed late, and the drive back to Northeast Portland drained whatever energy I had left. Rolling my suitcase toward the garage, I caught a voice I didn't recognize. "Price is fair if you're taking the whole set. I can put down a deposit tonight." The words stopped me cold. Someone was bargaining for something on my property. A man stood near my workbench, turning one of my old Torque wrenches in his hand like he owned it. Caleb hovered beside him, arms crossed, acting as if the place belonged to him. The stranger glanced at me. "Is this the guy? He doesn't use this stuff anymore, right?" Caleb didn't blink. "He's been out of it for a while. I'm helping him clear things out." My breath tightened. Those tools had been with me for more than 20 years, longer than Caleb had even been alive. "What are you doing?" The question slipped out sharper than I intended. Caleb barely looked at me. "Relax. I'm organizing this garage. Half these things are collecting dust. You can't use them the way you used to." That last line hit with a force I wasn't ready for. The doctor had warned recovery after heart surgery would drain me, but Caleb turned that weakness into leverage without a second thought. The stranger seemed uneasy and handed the wrench back. "I'll come by tomorrow if it's still available," Caleb answered before I could speak. "It'll be here. Don't worry, man." He left a faint smell of engine oil as he walked out. The silence after the door closed felt heavier than his presence. My hand touched the edge of the workbench. The familiar metal felt foreign, as if someone had rearranged the meaning of it while I'd been gone. Fatigue merged with a dull ache near the incision beneath my shirt. "Stop this, Caleb," I said. He shrugged a smirk, tugging at his mouth. "You're not thinking clearly. I'm trying to help. You don't even understand the value of half these things anymore." That sentence stripped something I'd tried to protect since surgery, the part of me that still believed I was capable. Nothing in me wanted a fight. Nothing in me had the strength for one. So I stepped back. One slow breath. Then another. Caleb shook his head like I was the unreasonable one. I walked out of the garage without another word. The night air hit my face and steadied me enough to reach the front steps. Sitting there, suitcase by my foot, I tried to piece together how a week away had turned my home into a trading post. The ache behind my ribs pulsed again, reminding me of everything the surgeon told me to avoid stress-strain confrontation. Yet here I was, swallowing humiliation in the place I'd built with my own hands. Caleb's voice echoed from the garage, faint but sharp enough to stick. "He can't tell what's worth keeping anymore." That line cut deeper than the incision ever did. Morning came without rest. Messages kept buzzing on Caleb's phone in the living room. His friends must have assumed he handled everything around here because one of them called out from the speaker loud enough for me to hear from the hallway. "Still got stuff to check out. I can swing by later." Caleb didn't bother lowering his voice. "Yeah, plenty left. He won't mind." Another message chimed. Then another. The pattern told me he'd posted something publicly, not just in a small group. My name, or at least my house, was probably attached to it. The apartment felt smaller than usual as I walked in. Caleb glanced up briefly, then returned to whatever was on his screen. "People are interested," he said. "It's a good thing. Less clutter for you." My chest tightened again. "Clutter." He shrugged. "You said you wanted to simplify." "I'm helping." Those words didn't match anything I'd ever told him. A few hours passed in a fog. My phone buzzed next. Someone from the neighborhood texted asking if they could help me sort through the old stuff. No one had ever offered that before. Not until Caleb spread the idea that I couldn't handle my own possessions. Another neighbor knocked later, smiling too widely. "Heard you're clearing out. If you need help lifting anything heavy, let me know. Things get harder after surgery, I get it." The well-meaning tone stung more than open disrespect. Caleb stood behind the neighbor, arms folded as if this whole thing had been approved by me. The moment the door closed, a thought struck hard. This wasn't just between two people anymore. He'd opened a door I couldn't shut by pretending to manage my life for me. My stomach churned. Staying home another minute felt impossible, so I grabbed my jacket and headed toward Alberta Street. Food didn't sound appealing, but I knew the diner still served late lunches. The bell over the door jingled when I walked in. Marion Brooks sat at the counter flipping through a small notebook. She recognized me instantly. "Rick, you look worn out. Sit." Sliding onto the stool next to her felt grounding. Marion had always been straightforward, one of the few people who never talked down to me. She studied my face. "You're dealing with something. Don't pretend you're not." A sigh escaped before I could contain it. "What's going on?" she pressed. "Just a situation at home." She raised an eyebrow. "With Caleb." My silence lasted a second too long. "Is he taking advantage of you?" Her voice didn't rise, but the question hit like a hammer. "It's not that simple," I said. "It usually is," she replied. "People either help you or they drain you." The words lingered. She didn't look away, didn't soften the question, didn't try to package it politely. Marion never did. "Think about it," she said. "You don't deserve to carry everything alone." The meal arrived, though neither of us talked much afterward. Marion tapped her notebook, closed it, and gave my shoulder a quick nudge before leaving. The touch was brief, yet firm enough to stir something I'd been avoiding, a sense of wrongness I could no longer explain away. Driving home, my mind replayed Caleb's tone from the night before. Every remark had chipped away at something I didn't realize was fragile. When I stepped through the front door, voices drifted from the garage. Caleb's voice carried a performance-like quality I'd never heard from him. "Yeah, check this out," he said to an unseen audience, sorting through everything. "Guy I live with used to be into these tools, but he's not the same after his surgery." Caleb held his phone upright, live streaming. Several of my personal items were spread across the table, old photos, notebooks, my first engineering certification. "What are you doing?" The word slipped out. He didn't turn around. "They're curious," he answered. "I'm showing them what needs to go. These aren't yours to show." He finally glanced over his shoulder, annoyed. "Calm down. People do this all the time. You're too sensitive." My hands trembled, though not from anger alone. It was disbelief mixed with a fatigue I couldn't shake. Destroying his setup would only turn me into the villain in whatever story he'd been telling strangers, so I reached into my pocket and lifted my phone instead. Recording without speaking felt like the only move left. He noticed but didn't react. He seemed certain nothing he said would matter anyway. "Don't make this dramatic," he muttered. "I'm trying to help you move on." Help! That word twisted into something unrecognizable. The livestream continued for another minute before he ended it. His followers dropped comments that popped up on the screen, jokes about old men hoarding junk suggestions about what he should sell next. Caleb waved at the phone like a performer signing off. Walking down the hallway toward my room, the world felt slightly tilted. That garage had been my refuge for decades. Seeing my life turned into entertainment pushed a boundary I didn't know he could cross. A text from an unknown number lit up my phone before sunrise. "You should check the files in the garage." The message looked deliberate. Not spam, not a misdial. A chill ran through me before I even reached the garage door. Stepping into the space, the first thing that stood out was a folder on the floor, its label bent. Several binders on the metal shelf leaned unevenly, though I remembered placing them straight weeks ago. A few envelopes were opened, their flaps curled back. It all felt wrong in a way that didn't rely on artistic detail. The disorder carried intent. Footsteps approached from the driveway. Mrs. Langley, the neighbor who liked to chat during her morning walks, paused at the entrance. "Rick, everything okay? Caleb told us you've been a bit forgetful since the surgery." She lowered her voice. "He said you get confused with paperwork." Heat rose in my face, not from anger, but from the humiliation of realizing stories about me had traveled farther than I knew. "I didn't say that," I replied. She gave me a sympathetic nod that said she didn't believe me entirely. "Well, if you need help sorting through things, don't be shy." When she left, I stared at the disheveled shelf. The question slipped in like a draft. What if she wasn't entirely wrong? Recovery had been rough. Painkillers had messed with my concentration. Maybe Caleb misread something I did. Maybe I really had misplaced a few folders. That possibility burrowed in deeper than any insult. Doubt can weaken a person faster than injury. Caleb entered a few minutes later carrying his phone and a smug ease. There you are. I changed the Wi-Fi password for safety. Too many unknown devices tried to connect. Unknown devices. It sounded more like a rehearsed excuse than a real problem. I need the password, I said. He shook his head. I'll share it later. I'm reorganizing everything first. So don't touch the shelves until I'm done. It's easier if I keep track of things. A laugh almost escaped me, not because anything was funny, but because the audacity hit me sideways. He spoke as if the garage belonged to him, as if authority transferred to whoever spoke with the most confidence. Marion texted soon after he walked away. You should review your ownership documents. If he's messing with your things, protect yourself. Staring at her message stirred something between fear and denial. You're overthinking, I wrote back then, deleted it before sending. She deserved honesty, not deflection. Still, no reply felt safer than admitting my life had veered off course. Instead of confronting Caleb, I opened the camera on my phone and started photographing the state of the garage. The tilted binders, the open envelopes, the folder on the floor. Short clips captured my voice, reciting dates and what had changed. Not evidence for a courtroom, just proof that my memory hadn't failed. A few personal documents, old contracts, bank statements, and the deed copy went into my briefcase. My job still had a locker room with small rental units. One could serve as a temporary vault. The garage door rattled. Caleb appeared again, noticing the folder in my hand. What are you doing with that? He asked. Putting it away. He moved closer, tone sharpening. You don't trust me, I'm the one taking care of all this. You should be resting, not messing up what I'm trying to organize. The accusation landed heavier than expected. Confidence dripped from his words as if he were the victim. You think I'd hurt you, he continued. I'm here because you need someone to manage things. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. Anger and exhaustion collided, leaving silence as the only response I could manage. He scoffed, unbelievable. The urge to argue flared, but died quickly. Engaging him now would only fuel whatever narrative he'd already built around me. So I stepped past him, collected the rest of the documents I needed, and slipped the briefcase strap over my shoulder. Caleb watched with a look somewhere between offense and triumph. Do whatever you want, he said. I didn't answer. The drive to work blurred into a chain of traffic lights. My thoughts kept circling the neighbor's comment, the folders on the floor, the Wi-Fi password suddenly out of my reach. None of it proved anything on its own, but the pattern was unmistakable. Walking toward the building, the concrete beneath my shoes felt steadier than the ground at home. The security desk clerk nodded as I passed a simple gesture that felt more grounding than it should have. In the locker room downstairs, the metal door of the rental unit clanged softly as I pulled it open. The space was small but sufficient. Documents slid into it one by one. Locking the door gave me a strange sense of taking something back. Nothing dramatic, just a fraction of control. My hand lingered on the key for a moment. The weight of it settled into my palm as I turned toward the parking lot again, the morning sun stretching across the asphalt. Pulling into the driveway earlier than usual, I caught sight of 3 unfamiliar cars parked crooked along the curb. Voices drifted from the garage, loud, casual, too, at ease for people who had no business being there. When I stepped through the side door, a group of strangers clustered around my workbench. Caleb stood in the middle, gesturing at my equipment as if he were an auctioneer. This is all from the old guy, he told them. We're clearing it out before it just rots away. One man lifted a power drill I still used on contract jobs. Another woman held the wooden box containing the brass calipers my late wife bought me on our 10th anniversary. Seeing that box in her hands triggered something sharp beneath my sternum. What's going on here? Everything went still for half a second. The strangers exchanged looks, unsure how to read the moment. Caleb didn't hesitate. "We're helping you downsize," he said. "You should be resting, not trying to keep track of this clutter. Let the younger ones handle it." The contempt in his tone felt deliberate, like he wanted these people to think he had authority over my life. "That box," I said, gesturing toward the woman, "needs to stay here." She set it down, carefully sensing tension. "Sorry, I didn't know," she murmured, before backing toward the door. A man carrying my drill hesitated. Caleb said, "I didn't authorize anything," I answered. The uncertainty on their faces finally cracked through the performance. One by one, they slipped past me, mumbling apologies or avoiding my eyes altogether. Once the last car pulled away, Caleb folded his arms. "You handled that badly," he said. "You should thank me. I'm doing the stuff you can't anymore. You don't get to sell my things. You're not thinking clearly, Rick. That's the problem. Someone has to step in." A pulse throbbed near my incision. Losing control of my body after surgery had been hard enough. Losing control of my home felt worse. Caleb rolled his eyes and wandered into the house as if the argument bored him. I stayed in the garage long enough to steady my breathing, long enough to make sure the box with my wife's gift was still intact. The rest of the evening blurred until I sat at my desk with my laptop checking accounts I hadn't bothered with for weeks. A chill crawled up my neck. When the notifications appeared, several online listings created using my home address and my phone number. Each one advertised items from my garage. He'd used my information to make himself look legitimate. That alone put me at risk. Strangers could show up any moment expecting to pick something up. Some listings even included available for pickup until midnight. A knock at the door startled me. Marion stepped in carrying a container of dinner she probably knew I wouldn't eat. "Rick," she said, scanning my face. "What happened?" I explained enough for her to understand people in my garage items gone my address tied to online posts. She let out a tight breath. "This isn't a misunderstanding," she said. "If you don't act, he'll keep pushing. He's already treating your life like it's his project. I'm trying not to make things worse." "It's already worse," she replied. "Do something before you lose more than tools." Her bluntness hit harder than the situation itself. Marion didn't dramatize. She observed. If she was worried, I had reason to be. After she left, the house felt tense. Caleb emerged from his room with a ring of keys dangling from his fingers. "I changed the lock on the garage," he announced. "For security. Too many people coming around." "You caused that," I said. He shrugged. "Doesn't matter how it started. What matters is keeping things safe. I'll manage it." "Give me the new key." "No, I'll handle access. You should focus on getting better." The finality in his voice stunned me. He wasn't just overstepping, he believed he owned that right, that he had earned control simply by insisting loud enough. "You don't have the authority to lock me out of my own garage." "I'm protecting your stuff," he said. "Stop being dramatic." My old key felt small in my hand as he walked away, humming under his breath like the conversation hadn't meant anything. Standing alone in the hallway, a cold realization seeped in. He'd crossed boundary after boundary, and my attempts to stay calm had only encouraged him. Returning to the driveway, I tested the garage door. The key turned, but the lock didn't catch. He'd changed the entire cylinder. Metal resisted me where it never had before. The porch light flickered slightly as I lifted the key toward my chest. My hand shook, not from age, not from weakness, but from the recognition that something fundamental had been taken from me. The email hit my inbox just after 7. The subject line read, "Question about your toolset listing." At first I thought it was another stray message meant for Caleb. Then I opened it. "I saw your nephew selling your tools with ownership documents. Is that legitimate?" A photo sat beneath the text. It showed a photocopy of the receipt from 2003, the year I bought my first professional grade kit. My name was on it, along with a trimmed corner that held my signature. Someone had scanned that part and attached it as if it were proof I'd approved the sale. My stomach dropped. That signature was faded, but mine. Not forged. Copied. A memory stirred weeks before surgery, when exhaustion had turned every task into a battle. Caleb had pushed a stack of paperwork toward me. "Just sign these," he'd said. Routine stuff. I'd been too tired to argue, too ready to lie down. The realization made my hands shake. Stepping out of the house felt necessary. I needed air conversation, something to counter the panic crawling up my spine. The diner on Alberta Street held its usual late-morning hum when I walked in. Marian sat at the counter sipping tea. Her eyes lifted the moment she sensed the tension following me. What happened now? Wordlessly, I handed her my phone. She read the email, swiped to the photo, and exhaled sharply. "He's controlling the narrative, Rick," she said. "You have to manage your side before he ruins it." Her bluntness usually steadied me. Today, it stung. "I don't want this to become a war," I muttered. "It already is," she replied. "You're just the only one refusing to admit it." A voice message pinged on my phone before I could respond. Another stranger from the online marketplace. "This is a heads up. Someone using your full name asked the bank about the value of your equipment. You might want to check your accounts." A coldness spread through me, slow, deliberate. Marian caught the shift. "What was that?" "Someone says Caleb contacted the bank." "That's not careless," she said. "That's strategic." She offered to come with me, but I declined. Some things a man has to face on his own. The bank lobby felt formal and distant. A young employee greeted me, then pulled up my file after I requested a review. Her eyebrows knit slightly. "A relative came by last week. He said he was helping you downsize and needed a ballpark estimate for liquidation." "Liquidation of what?" "Your property, equipment, and any items tied to your business history." Hearing those words sent a jolt down my spine. Caleb wasn't just selling tools. He was building a case to present himself as someone authorized to manage my affairs. If the bank accepted that narrative, I could lose everything based on implication alone. "That wasn't authorized," I said, slower than intended. The employee nodded empathetically. "Then you should document this. Miscommunication around estates or health can get messy." Health. There it was again. That silent assumption that age or illness made a person expandable. She printed a note confirming the inquiry had been made by someone else, then handed it to me with a reassuring look. I thanked her and stepped back into the parking lot. Before I reached the car, my phone rang again. A nephew from my sister's side, someone who rarely called. "Uncle Rick." "Are you okay?" he asked. "Caleb said you've been slipping mentally." He sounded worried. The accusation wrapped in concern struck harder than the bank visit. Not because my nephew believed it, but because Caleb had said it at all. "I'm fine," I said, though the words tasted hollow. "Well, he made it sound like you needed someone to manage things, so I just wanted to check." After hanging up, I leaned against the car. The metal felt cool beneath my hand. Caleb wasn't improvising. He was coordinating a slow rearrangement of my life so he could step into the center of it. Every rumor, every changed password, every missing folder, every listing tied to my name. All of it formed a single direction. Silence wouldn't protect me. Compliance wouldn't reset anything. The hope that he'd stop on his own began to collapse. A phrase from an old mentor surfaced in my mind, sharp and inconvenient. "A man who won't guard his boundaries teaches others to cross them." Marian's words echoed right after he's controlling the narrative. The bank doors closed behind me as another breeze passed through the lot. Cars rolled by. Someone laughed near the sidewalk. Life went on uncaring, constant. I straightened the hospital scar beneath my shirt, pulling lightly as I moved. Not pain awareness. For the first time since this mess began, something solid formed in my chest. Not anger, not fear. A decision. The phone call to my old company's legal department felt colder than I expected. I asked if my former attorney, Daniel Reese, still handled private consultations. The receptionist confirmed he did, and slotted me in the next morning. Daniel greeted me with the same steady handshake I remembered from past contract negotiations. His office looked sharper than before. Neat rows of case binders, metal cabinets labeled down to the month. "What brings you in?" he asked. "You don't usually show up unless something's gone wrong." I handed him the printout screenshots of Caleb's listings, the email from the buyer photos of my disordered garage, the note from the bank. He scanned each page, expression tightening. "This isn't minor," he said. "If someone uses your signature, or represents themselves as your proxy, that's potential civil exposure. If they access your accounts or impersonate you financially, it edges into criminal territory. A dry knot formed in my throat. What do I need to do? Reassert legal control. Immediately, he said. Lock down your ownership documents, change access, and stop assuming this is a misunderstanding. If he keeps going, you're the one who'll face the consequences. Truth delivered plainly hurts in a different way. He wasn't dramatic. He was factual. I left the office with a checklist and a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. Back home, the work began. Every piece of evidence I'd gathered photographs of tilted binders, clips of Caleb's livestream timestamps from the marketplace listings, went into folders arranged by category. That methodical process steadied me. Each file reduced the chaos Caleb created. Marion called in the afternoon. How did the meeting go? Daniel says I need to lock everything down. Good, she replied. And you should consider moving your valuable tools. Bring them to Tomas. His store has storage space. Transporting the items felt necessary. The chance of Caleb grabbing more grew by the hour. Tomas Rivera owned a repair shop on Killingsworth. When we arrived, he didn't waste time with small talk. He watched me unload the boxes, his jaw tightening with each one. This isn't family drama anymore, he said. This is about your safety and your rights. I'll keep them here, but you need a plan. I'm working on one. Work faster, he said. The bluntness wasn't meant to intimidate. It was a warning from a man who'd seen too many elders lose control of their possessions because someone helped them into vulnerability. As we finished unloading, my phone buzzed again. A new message from an unfamiliar account. Don't hide the items. I already put down a deposit with Caleb. A shiver traveled up my spine. Someone believed they were owed my property because Caleb had implied I no longer had the authority to decide anything myself. Walking back to my truck, I felt eyes on me. A man stood near the bus stop across the street, glancing in my direction repeatedly. Could have been coincidence, but my instincts flickered. Something about his stance, the way he stepped aside when I looked back, raised alarms. Then, another notification came through, an alert about an attempted login to my old cloud account. Password reset requested twice. It wasn't Caleb's style to be subtle, but he understood how to exploit a weakness. He wanted access to my digital footprint now. At home that evening, Caleb posted on social media, "I'm doing my best to care for a sick relative." Sad how easily people twist things. The comments beneath painted him as a devoted caretaker struggling with an uncooperative older man. Sympathy poured toward him. None toward me. I didn't reply. Engaging would validate his script. Instead, the laptop opened, and a new spreadsheet took form. Inventory of everything I owned that mattered: dates purchased, serial numbers, approximate value, and where each item had been moved. Every row of data replaced helplessness with clarity. Footsteps passed my door, but Caleb didn't speak. He went from playing overseer to performing concern online. That duality told me more about his intentions than any argument could. The final task of the night was reviewing the folders Daniel instructed me to gather: home deed copies, insurance policies, medical directives. All became part of a larger file I intended to bring back to him. Hours had slipped by before I realized I needed a break. My mind kept circling the same question: how far had Caleb planned ahead? And how long had I ignored the warning signs? Driving out to Irving Park offered a small stretch of space from the house. The park's open layout let me breathe without overthinking who might be watching. Sitting on a bench, I placed the folder beside me. Pages filled with evidence, dates, and notes rustled faintly as I turned them. Each one reminded me how close I'd come to losing control of my life without even understanding the scope of it. Cars rolled past the perimeter. Kids played somewhere on the other side of the path. A dog barked in the distance. Life continued as if nothing had shifted in mine. Patrol lights reflected off my front windows when I pulled into the driveway. 2 officers stood at the door, speaking in low tones. The moment they saw me, both straightened. Mr. Hale, one asked, "We received an anonymous report expressing concern about your safety. We need to check on you." A heavy pulse beat through my ribs. Anonymous, concern, safety. Every word pointed in one direction. Caleb. He lingered in the hallway behind the officers. Hands clasped, face arranged into a mask of worry. "Uncle, I didn't want to scare anyone," he said softly. "I just thought someone should check." My jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. He'd escalated from rumors to an official welfare check. If he kept pushing, I could easily be labeled incapable. Once that label stuck, the law would favor the next of kin, or whoever convinced the system they knew what was best for me. The officers asked routine questions. Any trouble breathing? Dizziness, confusion. I answered calmly, keeping my voice steady. "No. My doctor cleared me weeks ago. I'm fine living alone." Caleb stepped forward, eyes wide with false concern. "He gets overwhelmed. I've noticed him forget things. That's why I called. I just want him safe." The officers glanced between us. The taller one gave a cautious nod. "It won't take long. Standard procedure." They walked through the house. Nothing was out of place, no mess, no hazards. Just a lived-in home. After a brief look around, one officer returned. "Everything seems okay here," he said. "But someone really cares about you, sir." That line landed like a slap. Caring had nothing to do with this. Control did. When they left, Caleb tried to maintain his act. "I didn't mean to upset you. Enough," I said. His expression hardened. Whatever sympathy he tried to project vanished. Marion knocked not long after. She must have sensed something from the text I sent earlier. The moment she saw my face, she reached for my arm. "What happened?" I told her. Every detail. The police, the false concern, Caleb's performance. Her expression shifted from worry to a quiet, steady anger. "This isn't crossing a line anymore," she said. "This is erasing you." Her words hit deeper than anything the officers said. She understood what I hadn't been willing to admit. The path Caleb chose didn't stop at selling my tools. He wanted full control, financial, legal, personal. A notification buzzed on my phone. Another alert from an account I barely used. Password changed. Recovery email updated. Scrolling further, my breath stalled. Caleb had swapped my backup contact information for an email address I didn't recognize. He wasn't just invading my space. He was replacing me in my own digital identity. The room swayed for a moment. Marion steadied my shoulder. "You need to call Daniel," she said, "right now." I didn't argue. The call connected quickly. Rick Daniel asked, "Everything all right?" "No," I said. "It's gotten worse." I explained the welfare check. The email changes the attempted access. Daniel didn't interrupt. When I finished, he spoke with the same measured clarity he'd always used in high-stakes negotiations. "You have more than enough to act. We'll file for full reinstatement of control over all property and accounts. We'll revoke any implied access he thinks he has. Send me every piece of evidence tonight." "I will." "And Rick, don't delay. What he's doing fits a pattern we see in elder financial coercion cases. Courts take that seriously." Hearing those words, elder coercion, hit a part of my pride I'd been protecting. But facts didn't care about pride. Facts cared about proof timelines and action. Marion helped me gather everything: screenshots, printed emails, photos of the garage, the welfare check card the officers left. Her silence wasn't detached. It was the kind people use when they're too angry to trust their own words. I emailed each file to Daniel, one attachment at a time. When that was done, he sent me the first document to sign electronically, a notice re-establishing my sole authority over the house and all personal assets with legal backing. My hand hovered above the mouse for a moment. Signing felt symbolic, like acknowledging that the boy I'd taken in, fed, housed, and trusted had turned from troubled to dangerous in ways I never thought possible. Still, the choice wasn't difficult. The signature appeared on the page with a single click. Daniel responded within minutes. "I'll prepare the full packet. You've taken the right step." The house felt still afterward, but not peaceful. Caleb paced somewhere in the back room, muttering under his breath. He must have sensed something had shifted. I gathered the printed copies into a folder Daniel said to keep accessible. The edges of the paper pressed into my palm as I carried it to the table. Sitting down, I opened the first page and reviewed the text line by line. The legal phrasing felt dry, almost clinical. But the implication carried weight: my life, my home, my identity would not be taken from me by neglecting to act. A pen rolled slightly across the table. I caught it with my hand, then placed it beside the folder. Daniel arranged the appointment with the notary first thing in the morning. I drove there without turning on the radio, letting the instructions he'd sent the night before replay in my mind. Every step had been laid out clearly: signatures, affidavits, acknowledgement forms, and the transfer of ownership for the garage and its contents. Tomas met us in the lobby, wiping his hands on a work rag he must have stuffed into his jacket pocket. "You sure about this?" he asked. "Completely." He nodded once, no attempt to sugarcoat the weight of what was happening. We followed Daniel down the hall to a conference room lined with folders and metal stampers. The notary slid the first document across the table. It outlined the full transfer of my workshop equipment and mechanical inventory to Tomas Rivera, effective immediately and irrevocably. Pen in hand, I looked at the line bearing my name. The last few months replayed in a single sharp thread: Caleb's voice, dismissing me, the chaos in my garage, the police visit, the email changes the moment I realized staying passive meant disappearing from my own life. The pen touched paper. My signature flowed. Tomas added his next. Daniel stamped the page, then guided us through the rest. With each page completed, my breathing eased a little more. Once the final document was sealed, Daniel gathered the stack. "That's done. Caleb no longer holds even implied access to anything related to your property or tools." Tomas placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. He was never going to stop." Leaving the office, I drove straight to the bank to update every access point. New passwords, two-factor authentication, a fresh security phrase. The clerk helped me file a restriction flag so no one could inquire about my accounts without my explicit presence. From there, I moved through the checklist, changed the utility logins, updated my email recovery keys, reset cloud permissions, revoked every shared device Caleb had once installed for convenience. A strange steadiness anchored me throughout the process. Something about reclaiming what had been quietly slipping away carried its own momentum. Last on the list was the locksmith. He replaced the house locks in under 20 minutes. The sound of the final bolt sliding into place brought a heaviness to my chest, not sadness, finality. A boundary restored. By the time I stepped back into the house, the tension that usually clung to every corner felt thinner. Caleb stood near the kitchen doorway, phone in hand. He must have received the legal notifications already. His voice cracked with panic. "What did you do? Why are they saying I'm restricted from the house? Why can't I access anything?" I set my keys on the counter without answering. "You're destroying me," he said. "I was trying to help. I only stepped in because you weren't okay." Another alert chimed on his phone. His face twisted as he read it. "They're saying my actions might be reviewed legally. You're telling people I'm dangerous? Are you serious?" I met his eyes briefly. No accusation, no anger, just the clarity I should have shown months ago. He stepped closer. "Talk to me, Uncle. Don't do this. Don't leave me out like this." My phone vibrated in my pocket. More messages. When I glanced at the screen later, the notifications read, "Please pick up. Don't cut me off. You're all I have. You don't understand what you're doing." None of it changed anything. His fear arrived too late, long after he'd crossed the final line. Evening settled in slowly. I brewed tea, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. A link I'd bookmarked weeks ago blinked at me, a course on post-surgery strength rebuilding offered by a local wellness program. Scrolling through the outline, something in me loosened. All this time, my life had revolved around fire after fire, reacting instead of living. Now the path forward didn't feel blocked.